Hi guys, it's week number 3 of travelling with Vicki to listen to music, and this week we are going to Brazil and we're going to listen to a particular recording made in 1945 in New York of a Brazilian composer named Villa Lobos. He was an incredibly prolific composer, writing over 2,000 pieces of music. And so the important thing for him was his connection. He grew up in Brazil and he adored the folk music of Brazil. And so his music is based on that, also called coro, the name of the Brazilian folk music. Interestingly, that actually came about due to a sort of a melting pot of the people coming in to Brazil at the time, which late 19th century was predominantly Portuguese and African influence. So the name of the piece that we're looking at in particular is Bachian Brasileiras, and that's sort of tricky thing. I'll explain what that means later. But basically, this Bachianas Brasileiras is a collection of 9 works, each one vastly different set of instruments, small groups, large groups. The one today is just 8 cellos and a soprano. There are 9 of them. We're listening to the first part of number 5, and it is called aria, or in Brazilian Portuguese, cantilena. And the aria is just a melody, a singing-like melody, and it can be played by an instrument or a voice. So art is a collaboration, and this is no exception. We've got the composer, Viila Lobos, but he had an artistic collaboration for years with Brazilian soprano Vicki. And concerning this work, she saw it and suggested he'd actually originally written it for 8 cellos and a violin. And Vicki suggested doing it for the soprano, which is actually a similar range in some of the notes there. And he listened to her, thank goodness, and so we have this work of art for 8 cellos and a soprano, or high female voice. Then they needed words, and so the third person involved was Ruth Valadares Correa, and she is a Brazilian writer, poet and soprano herself. In fact, in 1939 she premiered this work in Brazil. There's no recording of that. We're going to be listening to the first recording of it, which is 1945. There are 3 main sections to the music. They're quite distinct in style. So the opening, the singer is actually not using words, just using the vowel R. And then at 3 minutes 35, I would call it going to the middle section. It changes quite a bit, the music, and she is then singing in words. And then at 5 minutes 40, it goes back to the opening melody, but this time with a closed mouth, with humming. The singer is humming. It's exquisite. The effect, the containment that does to the melody is just superb. Anyway, I'll leave you to find that out. So I said I'd sort of explain how it got this Bachian Brasileiras name. So as well as loving the folk music of Brazil, Viila Lobos also had a deep love and admiration for European music, and in particular the music of J.S. Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, who is from the Baroque era, 1685 to 1750. And so these pieces I've highlighted here the Bach and the Brazil part of these words. You can think of it as work, Bach music inspired on top of Brazilian music, or the other way around, Brazilian music inspired and put on top of Bach. It is his art, and here it is in his title. Some people describe the Bachian Brasileiras as the works of art as an homage to Bach. So just a little bit of technical before we go. The piece sounds very straightforward in a lot of ways, not complex. It's calm, it seems to float along, but there's an underlying complexity that I just want to talk about a little bit, and that is how the notes are grouped. And anybody who studied a bit of music will know what a time signature is. For a lot of pieces, you get one time signature through the whole piece. It's how the notes are lumped together. This is extraordinary. This is the first half of the first section, and we have all these time signatures: 5/4, 3/4. So it starts off where 5 beats are grouped together, but then quickly changes into where 3 beats are grouped together. And then we move through these. So the second key signature, time signature, is 3/4. Interestingly, when we get to the middle section, it's all in 5/4 timing. So there is this underlying restless element to it, even though the music comes across as so calm. The voice in this is just extraordinary. The poetry, the lyrics, I've written the Brazilian Portuguese and the English translation, or an English translation, in the link, so you can see those. But the lyrics are about the sunset, the moon rising, shimmering on the ocean. It is the calm of an evening. And the absolute beautiful tonality of Bidou Sayou's singing is just exquisite in this. She has a unique voice, very, I would hate to say pure, but there's very little vibrato in it, and it really hits the notes beautifully. Actually, I love this piece. Every time I hear this interpretation of it, Bidou Sayou's interpretation, it brings little tears to my eyes, and I think, oh, it won't happen this time, and it does every single time. It's just that. It's like one of those movies that you love, and you know you're going to cry at the end, and you watch it again, and you cry at the end again. So for me, this piece of music is like that. So I hope you really enjoy exploring it, and I will see you next week. Ciao!